how you can find in a nanosecond the money for tax cuts for people who are well off, but we can't find a way to just help middle-class working families get through this really difficult time. This is a big deal. And the indifference on this shown by the Republican majority in this House and by the guy in the White House who's remodeling bathrooms and building
$40 billion
Taj Mahal,
to Argentina.
It is ridiculous. But I'm just saying, I want to point for the historical record. I'm not getting the same courtesy that the chairwoman received.
Mr. McGovern, you're recognized.
Yeah, so I just, you just made me think of something, Madam Chair. You said that this is merely an extension of the January 2024 spending bill, that basically it's the same, everything's the same. I think that's what you, and the chairman just agreed with that. Does that mean that all the federal workers that were fired have been put back to work?
And under this bill, yeah, people that were let go or rifted. And by the way,
from the beginning of the
you
year,
created, my friend, the crisis that caused that to happen.
I just want to know whether all the people that were fired from the beginning of the year are put back to work, whether or not the cuts in the consumer.
There are provisions made to rehire people, but again, let's be clear about who put people out of work.
I can't get my question out. So I will let him answer if he lets me ask the question.
I thought I did. I apologize if I did not.
I want to know whether or not the cuts to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau are restated, or the cuts to NIH, I go right down, all the DOGE cuts. Have they been put back?
The provisions that Democrats asked for in terms of firing in the Senate are in the bill.
No, well, that's not what this. That's not my question.
Look, if you want to be against the bill, that's perfectly fine.
The chairwoman just said that basically this is the same as all the funding that we voted for in January of 2024. I'm just asking you, the stuff that we voted for in January 2024, some of it is no longer there. And some of it, I think, has been illegally cut by the president. Ms. DeLauro, do you want to give me a straight answer to that question?
Absolutely. This is really quite remarkable. Since January until now, and the number may have gone up, over 220,000 federal employees have been let go. They have most of them let go, some who took a buyout. The other fact of the matter is it's not the same budget because we have a tracker. I can give you documentation that showed you $410 billion that we appropriated. Democrats, Republicans signed into law by the President of the United States. And that money has been terminated. It has been delayed. And it's $410 billion. I'll give you the tracker. It's about 25 or 26 pages. And you can go down and take a look at every appropriations bill, and you can find out what program has been terminated, what's been gone. And that since January has nothing to do with this crisis that the Republicans have initiated and shutting down the government because they don't want to negotiate on health care costs.
So thank you for correcting the record. It's not the same that we voted for. But in addition to that, was this slush fund for senators who might have been involved with January 6th?
Right. They snuck that in.
Was that in?
No, it was not in it. It was not in, and I will just say in all fairness, that was done by the Senate. They snuck it in, and apparently there are two violations attached to it. We could be losing about $8 million.
So, Chairman, let me just ask you this question. Do you think the House should have been here these last several weeks trying to pass appropriation bills?
No, we had to wait until the Senate acted on what we sent them. It took the Senate a long time, largely because our Democratic friends used the filibuster, which they claim they opposed, to force us to get to 60 votes. Well, we finally did, or they finally did in the Senate. So, no, there wasn't much for us to do
we have
until
bills, don't we?
Can I finish my answer? There wasn't anything for us to do until the Senate acted. And the only reason it didn't act more quickly, under their own rules, the filibuster requires them to get to 60. The Democrats withheld their votes. So, it's Democrats that have kept us out of session. We sent this over in plenty of time. It's not like it was a last-minute emergency thing. I think, as the chairwoman pointed out, We passed this on September the 19th, well ahead of the time, sent it to them, and they couldn't get anything done. They couldn't get anything done because no
appropriation
Democrats
bills do we
would cooperate.
How many
I'm
more
sorry.
appropriation bills do we have to pass in the House?
We have passed every one out of committee.
Right.
We have passed over 60% of the funding across the floor. We asked to have additional time. That time has largely been wasted. We in this bill actually passed 3 bills across the floor if we're able to do that later this week. So we were making actually pretty good progress. The difference is my friends on the other side in the Senate and here decided they would add things to appropriations that are not in our jurisdiction or our expertise. Look, we don't deal with Medicaid. That was actually done in the big beautiful bill. We don't deal with that in Appropriations Committee. We do not deal with subsidies for Obamacare. They're not within our jurisdiction. So you added things that were
We're talking about
unconnected.
two different things.
Can I finish my answer? You were
Yeah,
added
filibuster.
things that were unconnected to appropriations and then were shocked when they weren't dealt with in appropriations bill. They belong somewhere else. It's my understanding both the Speaker and the Majority Leader and frankly the President have said, we'll negotiate with you when you reopen the government, but we're not going to sit here and negotiate after you shut down the government and threaten us. Nobody does that. You didn't do that when these
Maybe you
roles
can answer
were-
the
Let me
question.
just say that-
How many appropriation bills?
9 are left to go. 9 are left to go.
We
Nine.
could have done them during.
Well, they're in the committee,
Can
but they
I
haven't been to
finish
the floor.
my answer
just asking a
without
question.
any interruption? We've passed
just interrupted
everyone
her.
across the out of committee. We've passed 3 across the floor. They collectively add up to over 60% spending. By the way, a far better record than the Democrats in the Senate had last year when they were in control. They didn't pass a single appropriations bill out. So yeah, we're moving
Well,
pretty
listen,
well.
we have 9 bills to go.
Let me just ask.
We have nine, but
The question, I just want to make sure, the question I asked that doesn't get answered is, how many do we have left to do on
We
the
have
floor?
9 bills to
And
do
could we
across the floor.
I'm
that
talking to Mr.
are
DeLauro.
about 40% of federal spending.
Madam Chair, I mean, I'm asking Mr. DeLauro a question, and we can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was directed to me. I
guess,
apologize.
Yeah, and I just want to know, the question I asked Mr. Cole, which he didn't want to answer, but I'll ask you, couldn't we have been doing stuff on the floor these
Absolutely.
last 8 weeks?
Absolutely.
Right.
There has been so much wasted time, even in the process of the appropriations bills. And we did pass them in committee. And hours and hours and hours about poison pill riders that were done. These were unilaterally partisan bills that we were faced with. And when, not maybe, I don't know how many weeks ago, when the four corners, Chairman Cole, myself, Chairman Collins, and Ranking Member Murray, we sat down, the 4 of us together, and this is what we said we would do. We talked about these 3 bills, and we wanted to deal with the top lines, and we did. We got that, and we working through the bills. The staff worked through the bills. The second thing that we said, and there was consensus in that room, consensus, that what we would do is have a bipartisan continuing resolution. And that bipartisan continuing resolution would consider what Democratic priorities were and also deal with the power of the purse. We said that in that room. The next thing that we know, we were slammed with a partisan continuing resolution bill that did not take into consideration any Democratic priorities, nor did it address any of the issues of the power of the purse.
But let me just say, I think what Mr. Cole won't say, but I think, I'm not sure he really believes this, but the bottom line is, I think in answer to the question of whether we should have been here doing other work, the answer is, of course, we should have been here doing other work. By not being here doesn't make things go faster. I have another question here, and that is that according to the Congressional Budget Office, extending the ACA enhanced premium tax credits for 1 year would cost between $25 and $35 billion. And I just want to know how you guys were able to find $4.5 trillion in tax cuts in your reconciliation bill, with more than $1.4 trillion in tax cuts for people with incomes over $500,000 per year, but choose not to extend these healthcare tax credits that working people rely on. I mean, that's 56 times more on tax cuts for the wealthy than it would have been, that it would have cost just to extend healthcare tax credits for a year. I mean, I think in your district, Mr. Cole, I think there's like 48,000 of your constituents rely on the ACA for their health care. And they're getting bills like my constituents are, like Mr. Laura's are. I have 37,000, you have 48,000 in your district. And in my district, Massachusetts, I've got 37,000. So kind of comparable. I mean, I'm getting calls from constituents who are,
Crying.
out of their minds trying to figure out how they're going to pay for this. I mean, this week I received, this is one of them wrote me, this week I received the Massachusetts Health Connector open enrollment paperwork. The cost of the plan I'm currently on is going up by 62%. Another person said, I just received my letter and my monthly cost has gone from $1,287 to $3,026 for the next year. As a working family with a daughter who has an autoimmune disease, we're struggling. I'm working 50+ hours just to pay the insurance. Another person, if I continue on the same plan I am on now, it will be 2.5 times more and be unaffordable. $15,000 plus a month is incredulous for one person's health premium. When I calculate my net income, not gross, it is beyond sustainable. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I know, but how do we reconcile the priorities that give us, tax cuts for people who are well off, but when it comes to health care, and we can argue about whether the system can be better, I would prefer a different system. I would prefer Medicare for all. We did a hearing when I was the chairman of the Rules Committee on that, and it was a very good hearing. But nonetheless, this is an immediate crisis. And I think people can't understand is how you can find in a nanosecond the money for tax cuts for people who are well off, but we can't find a way to just help middle-class working families get through this really difficult time. I mean,
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Well, the most immediate crisis in my district are the thousands of workers that you and your colleagues have put out of work that aren't getting a paycheck. That's the calls I get. I have thousands of them. They're the ones that keep the airplanes flying. They're the ones that do the National Weather Center.
No
they're
calls on
wondering
healthcare?
why they're not getting paid.
So you get no
when
calls
there
on
was legislation, we could have had these debates, we could have had these arguments. Why are they being held hostage? Why are you not willing to pay them? That's the calls I get.
So nobody calls you on
Why is the government
healthcare?
shutting down? Why do men and women in uniform who are deployed have to wonder whether or not their family at home is going to get a paycheck? That's on you. Look, this is the stuff you said you would never do.
So the 48
we would never shut down the government. We would never do
So
that. That's exactly what
of the
you've
fo-
done.
so of the 48
you're putting thousands of people out of work.
of the 48
health care issue you're
No one-
talking about
no one-
is a subsidy that you passed on your own on top of other subsidies you said was COVID related. You said it would run out. We've said, okay, let's sit down and talk about fundamental changes here. But no, it's like we have to have our way. We have to have a guaranteed spending of $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years to exchange for you to pay people for 4 weeks in your original proposal.
So
we actually asked for 7.
You've tried over 50 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
The most immediate crisis in my project
come on,
you've
Tom.
created.
Well,
My people
so-
aren't getting paid
so no-
thanks to you and your colleagues.
So nobody in your district is complaining
I
to you
didn't
about the
say,
healthcare?
hey, people complain everywhere about everything.
we have a chance to do something about
You asked me
that.
what the most important calls I get is, why am I not getting paid?
And we have a chance to do something
Why am I
about
being forcibly
this.
furloughed? There's important work for me to do.
Here's the thing, we have a chance to do something to help millions of people afford their health insurance. And what you're all telling me is you're not interested.
I thought that we had affordable health care. No, I am
did.
interested.
When you
I have
when
a
you guys
whole
ex-
series of them.
when you guys
but they
ex-
have nothing to do with the
you
appropriations
guys-
bill. They have nothing to do with the work of my committee. We do not do that at my committee.
You all extended.
But you're
you all
willing to
voted
hijack our
you all
committee.
voted to extend tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires, make them permanent. but you could not extend these
you got?
for people. Mr. Laurel.
I'm just going to say you got 13 members, 13 Republican members of the House who have said allowing the tax credits to lapse without a clear path forward, there is no clear path forward, would risk harm to those we represent. These are 13 members of the Republican conference who are scared to death that that's what's going to happen in their districts. You've got, and in the chairman's district, a 60-year-old couple that makes $82,000 is going to see insurance premiums rise by $17,000 unless the Congress prevents it. Now, if that's okay, and you've got other members in the same situation, we can go down district by district and let you know what it is that is out there for this. And members who serve on the Appropriations Committee as well.
All 13 of those members voted to pay people.
Yeah.
They voted to keep the government open. None of you did, except for one member in Maine who's now retiring because he's being beaten up so badly
the House and the
for
Senate.
paying
Right.
people.
Madam Chair,
Exactly.
with all due respect,
Right.
when we debated the ACA, you controlled over an hour at a time. And you want to cut me off, that's fine. My constituents are getting screwed by what is happening here in this Congress or what is not happening in this Congress.
And every member-
they send me here to
members have-
fight for them because they're going to lose their health care or they're not going to be able to afford their health care. This is a big deal. And the indifference on this shown by the Republican majority in this House and by the guy in the White House who's remodeling bathrooms and building
$40 billion
Taj Mahal,
to Argentina.
I mean, it is ridiculous. But I'm just saying, I want to point for the historical record. I'm not getting the same courtesy that the chairwoman received when we did the ACA.
Just
And
listen to the American people. Last Tuesday, they made their voices heard on these issues. And you ought to take heed with what happened last Tuesday.
Mr. McGovern, what Mr. Cole has pointed out, and I've pointed out, and others have pointed out, this was put in place by the Democrats. The cutoff of the subsidies was put in place by you. And I think we have debated this point.
Why?